All right, thank you for staying with us, and we'll be talking about the offshoot of the removal of former CJN Justice Walter Onnoghen retired, and the case that was the conviction against him by the CCT that was quashed 2 days ago, and the matters arising on it. We'll be speaking with two gentlemen, legal practitioners, Barrister Agi, and of course, Barrister Jacob Sule. Gentlemen, thank you for staying with us. All right. If you can hear me. All right. Barrister Sule, can you hear me? All right. So for technology. Well, trust us to stay on the matter as well. Now, Evelyn, as it was said, say, okay, Barrister Sule, can you hear us? All right. Barrister Agi, if you can hear us.
Yes, I can.
All right. You can hear me, right?
For sure.
Yes, I can. Yes.
Oh, okay. Barrister Sule, you are going to land on your thoughts. If you can do that in 30 seconds so that we move.
Yes. So I was just trying to say that what we saw happen a few years ago by the Buhari-led administration was a total disregard for the institution of the judiciary by removing the head of the court, that's the CJN, through an ex parte order without giving for fair hearing and following the due process of the law. Like I said, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is very clear. There are no reservations about the process for removing the head of a court. The president does not have the unilateral constitutional powers to remove the president of the court. There are processes laid down in Section 292 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And the process says that the NJC, that is the National Judicial Council, must have investigated that supposed allegation. And then based on that recommendation to the president, then the president and an address from the two-third majority of the National Assembly, the president can now, in its wisdom, proceed to remove the CJN from office or the head of any court. What we saw happen 4 or 5 years ago was a total disregard and a rape of the constitutional provisions of Nigeria. And we as Nigerians must continue to speak against these ills in our society if we indeed want to have a country we can call our own and a judiciary that will indeed be the hope of the last common man. Thank you.
All right. Quickly, maybe we just read some part of that judgment. And it said some things that, okay, in relation to appeals number, because of time, CA/837/5C 2019, it is settled that the Code of Conduct Tribunal lacks jurisdiction to try and convict the appellant, a judicial officer, without first resorting to the NJC, that's the National Judicial Council, in accordance with the following decisions: Federal Government versus Ngajiwa 2022, Ngajiwa versus Federal Government 2018, Opene versus NJC 2011, and secondly, that the tribunal lacks jurisdiction to have tried and convicted the appellant even after the appellant had tendered his voluntary retirement later, and same was accepted unconditionally by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, among others. And these are some of the things that, causing this worry to many Nigerians to say, this is, we are talking about a judicial officer, the highest ranking at that time. And of course, we're talking about legality, Code of Conduct Bureau. These should be eminent persons in charge of, seeing that things are well done, documenting the assets of the people. Lawyers, by the way, the man in question is a lawyer. We are talking about the judiciary. So some of these provisions of the law have always been there, but the CCT went at it and do all of these things that were done. Now, because of time, let me speak to Barrister Agi. Where does this leave our institutions? Because it seems like sometimes he who pays the piper dictate the tunes, and it's supposed not to be that way. My colleague Evelyn has talked about the separation of powers over and over. The judiciary, the executive, and of course the legislative arm. Why does it look like the person at the helm of affairs sometimes can just have an overriding effect? And where does this leave our institutions? We have the grand norm, a law, and a nation to run. Is this how to go about it?
Absolutely not. And that is why some of us will always canvass, for, the total independence of the judiciary, particularly when it comes to the relationship between the judiciary and the executive. You find that the judiciary in Nigeria today is more or less like an appendage of the executive arm, and that is why the orders of court are flouted, with impunity, and nothing is done at the end of the day. In fact, as we are today, you will remember sometime in 2016, 2017, when the houses of, Supreme Court justices were boggled into, by security, agencies on the ground that, they were carrying out investigations and all that. The houses were raided, So these are the issues. The institution, the judiciary in Nigeria, does not seem to have, or to exercise its, powers to the extent that the Constitution has granted it. And that is the issue. And again, you can link this to some of the quote unquote favors that the executive does for the judiciary. Only recently, my organization, Citizen Gabriel, published a report based on some of the allocations, allocations made by Minister Wike, to the judiciary. We tried to look at what he did from 2015 till date, and we counted no less than 10 different projects, that he did for the judiciary. And some people were asking, look, why the sudden, why the concentration on the judiciary? For many of us, we advocate that if anything should be done for the judiciary, it should come through the NJC, right? Because first of all, the NJC is not only the body that disciplines judicial officers, it's also the body that is responsible
Barrister
for
Age, but is that wrong?
Yes, sir.
Is it unconstitutional to make for a minister or a governor to say, I'm going to make life, more better for the judicial officers, knowing fully well it used to be one of them. Barrister Wike is a lawyer. Minister Wike, as a governor, he gave them quarters, he tarred their road, and he has started the same thing in Abuja as well. Is it unconstitutional? Is it illegal?
Well, so it's not illegal, and that is why nobody is challenging it, right? But we're saying that there may be a motive behind it. For instance, like I said, critics are looking at it this way, that some of those interventions that Barrister Wike does for the judiciary, for instance, that there are some form of, favors that he's kind of paying back for favors that were done to him, right? For instance, and I'm talking about one of the critics is Professor Chidi Odikalu. If you follow him on Twitter, you would have seen some of the tweets he has put out in respect of this. That some of the things that we see Wike is doing today, though, like you said, not illegal, but that these are meant to curry favors, for him. And in fact, Sowore, for instance, accused Wike, formally of, being or having the judiciary in his pocket. And this is the issue. And again, you will remember that there was a recent report that was released by the MBS, and it's indicting the judiciary, saying that when it comes to bribe collection, that the judiciary is ranked number 1. Right? So these are the issues. The relationship between the judiciary and executive, you would hardly find a what do you call it? A separation so much such that with the way things stand, it is difficult, right? It is difficult for the judiciary to act on its own whims and caprices without resort to the executive. And that is why we see some of these things happen. So,
all right.
Well, on the one hand, it's like I said, justice for democracy that at the end of the day, the Court of Appeal has found Onnoghen not guilty of what he has been convicted for and has been acquitted of sin. Good and fine, right? But how are we sure that this will not repeat itself? Knowing the kind of country that we run today, also knowing how greatly the judiciary relies on the executive for some of these favors, right? Why can't things be done the right way?
All right.
So these are our arguments, basically.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Barrister Age. I'd like to know if Barrister Sule is still there.
Yes, Evelyn.
Okay. Can you speak to what Barrister Age says about the executive doing some favors for judicial officers, and critics are seeing it as to carry favor. A lot of people have also spoken to the quality of judges that we now have, especially at the top gear, saying the quality of judges we have some of them, we can say they have questions to answer, but this is also speaking to the standard of our judiciary. So I'd like you to speak to what Barrister Age says about the executive providing some favors or doing some favors for the judiciary, which is seen as to curry favor. Remember that the federal government increased the salaries of judicial officers by 300%.
Yeah.
And people says this is not just for goodwill, it's for the future. And people are scared that we might not have a judiciary that will dispense justice without fear or favor.
Evelyn, thank you so much for, putting that in very great perspective. And I totally agree with my colleague who has actually laid a great foundation for pivoting on this conversation. We do have a body recognized by law, which is the National Judicial Council, responsible for the welfare, administration, sanctioning, and discipline of judicial workers. And, legally, I have strong reservations about what the current minister of the FCT, Leonard Senior Yesom Wike, has consistently been doing. Wike is a very clever minister and very senior member of the Nigerian bar, who also sits as a body of benchers. And, it is not something that we should be discussing about in this legal profession. Wike has no business with consistently, I use the word consistently, providing for the needs of the judiciary. There is a body by law recognized and charged with that responsibility. And what you've seen over the years is where we have now reduced the judiciary to like a child that has no source of income without going to the parent to consistently ask for favor. He who pays the piper dictates the tune.
Barrister Sule, very quickly, because we are pressed for time, Barrister Age says it's not like it's illegal, but probably morally speaking, it's wrong. Do you think such a matter should be discussed within the legal frame and probably put into the Constitution for the executive not to outrightly provide some basic things for the judiciary?
Evelyn, we do have a constitution that provides for our judicial, the welfare of judiciary officers should be handled in this country. So Wike and his court knows what they are doing. The continuous pocketing of our judiciary officers in disguise of taking care of the welfare stands strongly condemned. We cannot.
But he has not broken the law, has he?
This is not about the issue. This is about the issue of morality, and we should.
Yeah, I am speaking now. Do we consider putting that in the perspective of the law, like putting it into our system, our constitution, for it to be probably, let's say, criminalized or something?
I mean, I don't. Well, if that would help stem this whole situation in the tide, well, that would be strongly recommended. But as it stands now, I think it's not appropriate. Morally, it stands condemnable. Legally, there are no cause for saying anything has been breached. But we know how polarized the country can be. Where somebody continues to do favor for you, it will be very challenging for you to make a ruling that will not suit the needs and the requests in which they make from you. Although we have not seen any concrete evidence to say that the continued welfareization of judicial officers have influenced their decision, but on the grounds of morality, I think we need to reflect on that and really call the minister into book and say, no, this has to stop, and the NJC should take full responsibility of the welfare of judicial workers in Nigeria. And this old disguise of building quarters for them, it doesn't speak well of our judiciary, and I take very strong exception to that.
All right, very quickly, still with you, Barrister Sule, and I would also pose a question to Barrister Age. The Human Rights Writers Association, RIWA, has described this recent judgment as half justice. They believe that judgment should have been meted also to the executive for carrying out such action against the CJN at the time. In fact, they are saying or advising the famous CJN Walter Onnoghen to sue President Muhammadu Buhari for defamation.
I mean, yes, he has a legal right to pursue that if he feels he has been defamed by the former president, Muhammadu Buhari. But quite frankly, generally, I think this is just like the system itself catching up with one of its principal members. And that's why I've consistently called for the reform of the judiciary. Just imagine from 2019, it took us solid 4 or 5 years for us to get a final decision on whether or not the CJN was legally removed from office. And this calls for a deep reflection for us as a country. If the former CJN, my Lord Justice Walter Onnoghen, feels that he has been defamed by the actions of the federal government and former president Muhammadu Buhari, is so welcome to approach the courts of competent jurisdiction to file an action and seek for damages as a due to him.
All right, Barrister Agi.
Yes, I mean, I absolutely agree with my learned friend there. If, of course, the former CJN feels that his right has been infringed, of course, he has every right to approach the court to seek redress. But I also want to ask this. The court of appeal, while, acquitting him, did not say he did not, he did not violate the provisions of the code of conduct as alleged against him. Don't forget that the judgment as entered by the court of appeal was a consent judgment, right? It was based on terms of agreement. So there was basically no room. The court of appeal did not determine the matter on the merit, right? So as of today, Walter Onnoghen did not, there is no specific pronouncement of the court saying that he did not do those things that he was alleged to have, done. All the court said was that, look, he ought to have been investigated first by the NJC. That was not done. And it was on the basis of that the conviction has now been overturned. So do you see the difference? Now, it will be challenging, a bit for him to now want to go to court to say, look, I was removed from the... yes, fine. The procedure that was followed in his removal was totally off. We all agreed on that. However, the basis for his arrest in the first place or for his trial at the Code of Conduct Tribunal has not been sorted. But of course, like I said, in the first, from the introductory part of my recent comment, I said I had an issue with his, with the acquittal, given by the Court of Appeal. Why? Because what the Court of Appeal has done is that it has closed the door as far as investigation into that matter is concerned. Because for the fact that the Court of Appeal has acquitted him, that means that no security agency in Nigeria can again, very well, So, but the question still remains: did Walter Onnoghen actually committed those breaches, of the Code of Conduct for public officers that he was alleged to have done?
But after he has been acquitted, does that question still survive?
Well, like I say, it doesn't, but you and I know that he wasn't tried on the merit, and that is my concern over that court decision. Yes, please.
Yeah, we have to go, but if I can squeeze in just 15 seconds, is many persons have said this aspersion on the judiciary or the distrust of the Nigerian people with judiciary or thinking, allegedly that, some of these things happening is just because of, because the judiciary is not that strong as an institution. Many persons have said the bench is one of the weapons fashioned against the judiciary. Apart from the, I'm talking about the bar rather. These people who go to court with some of these frivolous things and use our laws as well, they are lawyers. You are supposed to know. So what do you say to that? That lawyers like yourself, they are part of the pawns in the hands of the big guys.
Well, absolutely. And of course, that is why the legal practitioners disciplinary committee is in place, to try some of these things. But you find that it would seem that some of these lawyers that do some of these things are hardly petitioned, that is what I think.
And they are the learner seats, the BB guys.
Exactly. So you see, it's them. So it's difficult to, bring them before even the disciplinary committee, not to talk of, sanctioning them. Right. Let me give you an instance. The ex parte order that, was used in removing Justice Onnoghen, the lawyer that moved it, that purportedly moved it, his name was not on the ex parte order. Now, normally, when an ex parte
I'm afraid we have to go.
Oh, please.
Yeah, we have
Very
to
well.
run. Well, one of these days we'll have this conversation in full. Barrister Age, we want to sincerely thank you on the program, senior legal analyst with the Citizens Government, and also our friend in the house as well, Barrister Jacob Sule, all the way from the US. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time and take on this program.
Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, all right. Very well. All we speak to is the betterment of this nation and why we must do our duty. Either you are occupy one office or the other to make sure that this nation is the one that we are all proud of. To our Femi Ojo is my name. We'll make a return tomorrow morning, God willing.
And I'm Evelyn Ohiolei. Stay tuned for Spring Trends coming right after this broadcast.